Hare Rama, Nam Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Rama, Nam Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Nam Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Nam Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Nam Ram Ram,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Ram Ram
Hare
Ram,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare Ram,
Rama, Nam Ram Ram,
Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna
Hare Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Brahma, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Brahma,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare
Hare
Hare, Hare Krishna,
Brahma, Hare
Krishna
Hare, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Brahma,
Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Rama,
Hare,
Ram Ram
Hare
Ram,
Rama,
Hare Hare, Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram,
Krishna
Hare Hare,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare Rama,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Hare, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Rama,
Hare Hare
Ram
Rama,
Ram,
Brahma,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare, Hare
Brahma,
Rama,
Hare
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Rama,
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Rama,
Hare,
Hare
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 Ram,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare, Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Ram Ram, Hare 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 Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare Hare
Krishna, Krishna
Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
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 Krishna
Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare
Ram
Rama,
Ram,
Hare
Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Ram
Rama, Hare Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare
Krishna,
Rama,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram
Hare
Ram,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare, Hare Ram
Krishna
Ram,
Hare Hare Rama,
Hare Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram, Hare Hare, Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram
Ram
Ram, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama,
Hare Ram
Ram Ram, Hare
Hare
Hare, Hare
Hare,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Rama,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
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 Hare Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Vancha kalpatarusya kripa sindhu vyayeva cha patitam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। Hare Krishna, this is Shama Supriya Devi Dasi from Houston, welcoming all the devotees to our Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. And I sincerely ask for forgiveness for stopping your sincere and ecstatic chanting. Thank you to each and every devotee for joining this chanting call and giving your very wonderful association during this time. Thank you so much. And now we will move to our next part of our session, that is our Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta session. So before starting the session, can I know who are all joining this session?
Hare Krishna, Priya Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada, this is Preeti Vilasini Devdasi from Lilamrta. Thank you, Mataji, for your welcome.
Hare Krishna, Preeti Vilasini Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call and as usually giving your very sweet association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sham Supriya Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devi Dasi from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the sessions and giving your very sweet association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat pranams to you and all the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev. This is Lalitangi, Radha Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Lalitangi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the sessions and giving your very valuable association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru and Gauranga, and all glories to all the assembled devotees. This is Shashidhar joining from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shashidhar Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for joining the sessions and giving your very wonderful association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the sessions and giving your very sweet association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody on the call? Would you like to introduce themselves?
Hare Krishna, it is Sham Shukriya Mataji, Dandavat Pranam to you and all Vaishnava. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the sessions and giving your very beautiful association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, before we can start record, we have Rajeshwari Priya Mataji on the call. It's her birthday. So if everybody can wish her.
Oh, sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Rajeshwari Mataji, wish you a very happy Krishna conscious birthday. May Guru and Srila Prabhupada always shower their mercy and blessings on you, Mataji. Have a wonderful day.
Hare Krishna Mataji, happy birthday. Let's all sing a song. Okay.
You know, I'm at work, so that's why my camera is off. So please pardon me. Okay, but I'm listening to all of you. Thank you so much.
Very nice to hear your voice after a long time on Bhakti Sangha Mataji.
Happy Krishna conscious birthday, Mataji.
Happy Krishna
Krishna Mataji, happy Krishna conscious birthday. Jiv Rajeshwari Kopi, Koti Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Happy Krishna conscious birthday, Rajeshwari Priya Mataji.
Thank you so much. You all made my day.
Happy Krishna conscious birthday, Rajeshwari Priya Mataji.
Very cool. Thank you, Mataji.
Wish you a very happy Krishna conscious day, Rajeshwari Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Mataji, thank you very much. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Happy Krishna conscious birthday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And start the record.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. I welcome all the devotees to our Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call of our Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta sessions. And today we are very fortunate to have with us Her Grace Lalitangi Mataji to give the chapter summary of 40 of Lilamrta. So before handing the call to Mataji, I would like to read the quote for the day. So it's August 27th. A little bit of a pure thing is much better than huge volume of impure, adulterated things. Letter to Brahmananda, August 27th, 1969. Hare Krishna, Lalitangi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Now I hand over the call to you, Mataji. Please take over. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, my humble obeisances to you and all the assembled devotees, Mataji. Thank you so much for giving this nectar of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta. It's so wonderful to know in details each and every chapter what he did. So thank you for this opportunity. So let's begin with prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Mishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. So we are in chapter 40 of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta, absorbed in Bombay while traveling around the world. So here we see how Prabhupada, how swiftly for his age, he's going from one place to another, and each one packed with so many preaching events. And he was the only one to establish the standards of the movement, and how busy he is throughout the day. But still parallelly, we also see the happenings that's going on in Bombay, and how he's keeping in track of that and instructing through his letters and telegrams. So it starts with Australia. So first he's traveling, Srila Prabhupada traveled with three of his disciples, Shyam Sundara Prabhu as his secretary, Pradyumna Prabhu as his servant and Sanskrit editor, and Nanda Kumar Prabhu as his cook. So, but first when they went to Singapore, with no explanation, they were denied entry. So Prabhupada was disappointed and feeling ill as well. So he continued the 12-hour flight to Sydney. So he's planned to stay in Sydney few days before Melbourne, and he's visiting Australia for the second time after a year. So the last year when he had visited, this was in Australia, is April 1, 1972. So the last April when he visited Australia, I'm not sure it's April, but last year, he installed the deities Radha Gopinath, and we saw that how he had told the deities that I'm leaving you in the hands of inexperienced devotees. You please give them intelligence so that they may worship you, serve you properly. So he's seeing that how the deity dressing standards and everything in the temple has been going on well, and the deities are well cared for. So he felt very happy. Then he stayed 5 days in Sydney, and then he went to Melbourne. And in Melbourne, there was a large gathering. So now we see that Prabhupada is lecturing to big crowds, not less than 1,000 people. So, and in Melbourne, what happened was when he was lecturing, and in the big event, there was a person. This happens often in the university, in the town hall. First he came, and a person very respectfully spoke to Prabhupada that I have been listening to your lecture, and I have one thing to say to you in this regard. And he says, I am the center of the universe, and I will prove sometime next year that I am the center of the universe and I am God. So this person dresses little weirdly. He's a professor, but he gave up his post, and then he's doing these things, and he's called Wizard. So Srila Prabhupada patiently heard him, and then he said, that's all right. Everybody is thinking like that. What makes you different? So he smashed his thinking that basically the person who's called wizard, he wants to, make an impression that he's different. But Prabhupada exposed this and everyone started laughing and clapping. Then he went to Auckland, that is in April 14, within a span of 15 days, 2 weeks. So they had opened a new temple in New Zealand. So Prabhupada stayed there. He installed Radha Krishna deities. They were not ready, but in 2 days he said that, get all the arrangements to install the deities, and they should have so many sets of clothes. And there was only one Mataji who was second initiated and who was able to care for the deities, but he said that the deities had to be installed. So everything was going wrong. The curtains were falling down, and then Srila Prabhupada took the place, and then he started instructing, put this there, put this that, do this and do that. And then the room was very small, and the Vyasasana was almost like half of the room. So he said that get rid of this Vyasasana, and he put a small mat where he sat down and gave lecture, and that way he installed the deities. Then he spent one night in Hong Kong. So there, Burijana Prabhu and his wife, Jagatarini Mataji,
Hare Krishna.
is it okay now?
Yeah, now I can hear you, Mataji.
Yeah. Sorry, Mataji. The internet connection says it's unstable. So let's see, I'll come close and try to talk. So, then when the children spoke, they trained the children to sing the bhajans and arti songs in Sanskrit, and Srila Prabhupada was very pleased, and he said to Burijan Prabhu that, your wife said that there are not many interested people, but you have so many students here. And Burijan Prabhu said that, no, they are your students. And so he lectured there, and after that, there was a boy who asked, who started the forest fire? Apparently, the boy was thinking about the forest fire pastime in Krishna's pastimes. But Srila Prabhupada, just like that, with nothing, he asked who started the forest fire. So Srila Prabhupada answered, no one started the forest fire. It starts automatically, just like in the forest. By the rubbing of two bamboos, a fire may start. But by chanting Hare Krishna, we can get out of this forest fire of material life. So after Hong Kong, he went to Japan. So Japan, the first thing, he wanted to see the pulse of his disciples, and they were in a country setting, in a kind of a hilly side area in the suburb of Japan. The temple, and Prabhupada was booked a hotel room. And so during the Sunday feast, Srila Prabhupada noted that all the Japanese, who are all totally new people, they came inside, they bowed, and then they offered a flower to him. And then he noted that they are very respectful, and then it's a good sign that they are able to honor a saintly person. And then there was a program that was arranged in a place called Kobe, which they had to, it's a long journey out of Tokyo, and it was a house on the 3rd floor. And there were 2 speakers. One is Srila Prabhupada, and another one was obviously a Mayavadi person. First, Srila Prabhupada spoke, and then there was Kirtan, and everyone danced and chanted, and it was very nice. Then the other sannyasi began speaking in Hindi. So Prabhupada was sitting there with his eyes closed and chanting. And suddenly he looked at Nanda Kumar. Burijan Prabhu is telling this. He looked at both the devotees, Burijan and Nanda Kumar, and said, start Kirtan immediately. So when the sannyasi was speaking, these people got up and did the Kirtan, and after the Kirtan, Prabhupada quickly left. So when he came back to the room, when they asked him, he explained what had happened. What he said was, first he was preaching nicely, and then he started explaining Panchopasana. about the 5 different features of the Absolute. And then when he said that the Supreme is ultimately impersonal, I could not tolerate it. So that is the love of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, I'm like a lion when I'm out and a lamb when I'm home. So then Prabhupada also met the Dai Nippon printers who were doing the printing work, and he had some business with them. And during that time, there was a young Japanese executive who translated an old person's talk with Srila Prabhupada. And the old person told Srila Prabhupada that he lost his youngest son, who was only 20 years old, about a year ago, and he was very sad about it. And he was asking how to get relief from such sadness. So Prabhupada immediately told the story of how Sandipana Muni's son was dead, and Krishna and Balaram brought him back to life and gave him back to his kingdom and to his guru. And Srila Prabhupada said that if you satisfy Krishna, if you please Krishna, then you'll be blessed. Then he asked him, do you believe in reincarnation? So now your son must have taken body somewhere. And if you pray to Krishna for him, your son will be very happy and he will benefit. So this was very satisfying reply to the old Japanese executive, and he thanked Srila Prabhupada. Then meanwhile, he's also simultaneously, the whole chapter is wherever he goes, what he does with respect to Bombay. So he wrote 2 letters to Giriraj Maharaj now. So, and then asking him that you should make a construction that is looking like Jaipur's famous Govinda Devji's temple, and then start getting designs of construction. And then we can, get the city council's approval, and then we can start building. So that was his transcendental pastimes in Japan. Then he goes to Hawaii on May 6, 1972. There he installs the deities of Panchatattva, and here he does the morning walks on the beach, and there he speaks the fallacies of Darwinism. And in the Waikiki beach, the very famous, we have pictures of Srila Prabhupada walking in the beach and his morning walk conversations also. So then at that time, the devotees were having long shikas, and Srila Prabhupada said that Gaudiya Vaishnava shika is an inch and a half across, no bigger. Bigger shikas means another sampradaya, and they have to be knotted. So then they all came with shikas as mentioned, and then orange colored saffron shirts. So then Govinda Dasi speaks about Prabhupada's stay in Hawaii. And so when she was chanting one evening, Srila Prabhupada asked her, so 16 rounds are over? Then she said, yes, Prabhupada, I'm chanting the last round. And then Srila Prabhupada says, that is good. So there was an architect friend of Srila Prabhupada who drew some design for Bombay buildings, and Prabhupada saw that in the letter and he was very pleased. And he also heard from a letter of a French disciple who was married to a Russian, and they both were going to Soviet Union to preach. So then Srila Prabhupada told a very valuable instruction to Govinda Dasi that preach while you are young. When you're old, retire to Vrindavan and chant Hare Krishna. Therefore, these centers in India are being built. But you cannot retire unless you have preached sufficiently. The mind will agitate. If you have preached, you can retire and chant Hare Krishna. So preach as much as possible. So then he again received a letter from Giriraj Maharaj, and he said that Giriraj Maharaj is reporting at that time, not Maharaj, but it's always for us good to say Maharaj now. So he is saying that they have paid 7,500 rupees to Mr. N. And Prabhupada is asking on what account is it paid. So they paid it was like an installment toward the agreed 2 lakhs a year, but that has to be paid only after they get the deed, the final papers of the land by Mr. N, but Mr. N has not yet given the deed. So why you have to pay him the money? So he was time and again putting his concentration in Bombay, but at the same time, after that letters and conversations are over, he gave himself to the place where he was staying, his day fully packed with devotional service to Krishna. So, and then he goes to Los Angeles on May 18, 1972. There he awards sannyasa to Satsarup Maharaj and 3 other American GPC men. So he was telling them that what is 2 things that the sannyasis have to be careful about. One is when they see someone, when they see a rich man and his opulent wealth, they shouldn't be thinking, oh, I have given up everything, I wish I could enjoy these things. Then again, the second thing he said is that when they see a beautiful woman, they should not think, I had a beautiful wife and now this beautiful woman is here, I could enjoy her. So in other words, he said, have no regrets about having taken sannyas. So that was a culmination of his instruction to the new sannyasis. Then he repeatedly asked all of them, are you all convinced? And he said that I am doing this, I am pushing this movement, I'm doing everything because I'm convinced that this is the medicine and nothing else but this. So he says, if you are not convinced, then it is not good for me. The first thing is enthusiasm. Don't be dead. You have to work more than me. Anyone who has life, he can preach. So he said that, in another conversation, he's saying that he took sannyas at the fag end of his life, but that is little better than nothing. But he is giving sannyas to all his disciples in youth so that they can do much more than him. So everyone laughed at the thought that we could do more than Prabhupada. And so that was how his conversation with the devotees was. Then they took him a tour around the Los Angeles temple. And that was a time, 1972, you can think that computers were very rare. And then they had procured a computer and Ananga Manjari was saying that if we just type, Prabhupada seemed disinterested at the how the computer works. But when Ananga Manjari said that if we just type the word Rupa Goswami, whatever Srila Prabhupada said and written about Rupa Goswami would come. So as soon as Srila Prabhupada heard the word Rupa Goswami, he raised his eyebrows and said, oh, yes, everything can be used in Krishna's service. Then after he went out of the office and there was a telex machine. So these were all, we can see that they were very new inventions and how the devotees have acquired them to serve Krishna. So there who Karandara is explaining that I can write a message all the way to New York, Srila Prabhupada, and they can send a message back immediately. So Karandara typed on the telex machine, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, please respond. There was no reply. Then again 2 times he wrote this and there was no reply. Then the 3rd time when he wrote, he said that Srila Prabhupada is sitting right next to the telex machine, please respond. All of a sudden the machine started typing out a reply and Srila Prabhupada was sitting there watching it. The type read, Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept our most humble obeisances at your lotus feet. We'll be very eager to see your divine grace in 3 days in New York. Srila Prabhupada spoke out, Jaya Hari Bol. The message from New York was signed by many devotees and Srila Prabhupada just smiled and said, this is very nice. Then this was a time when book distribution had picked up and lots and devotees were going out and they were trying to see how to distribute books, and along with Back to Godhead magazines, big books were also starting to get distributed. So he wrote so many letters at that time stressing the need for book distribution, and he compared book distribution to the brahmacharis begging in the traditional Gurukula system. They go from house to house and beg. So here, when the brahmacharis hand out Back to Godhead, they are giving out the knowledge, and someone would give a quarter back. So that would be the practice. That is, and then he wrote many letters. I'm just reading a few here. Each time someone reads some solid information about Krishna, his life becomes changed in some way. These literatures are the solid ground upon which our preaching stands. So I want that they should be available to everyone, as many as possible. This was the letter to New York devotees. Then to the devotees in Australia, he wrote that our preaching stands solid on these books. No other movement has such vast background of authority. Then to the devotees of Africa, he said that especially the Africans want our books. So then he again wrote that practically our society is built on books. One book is not very impressive. Still, a blind uncle is better than no uncle at all. So it is very nice that one book has appeared and that BTG is appearing at least several issues in other languages. And now his instruction was, but now try to produce at least 4 or 5 new books per year in several languages, plus regularly BTG every month. Apply yourself fully to this very great responsibility of producing numerous books in foreign languages. So he's saying before that I am doing this because my Guru Maharaja wanted it, just simply because my Guru Maharaj wanted it. So then there is a description of how there is competition between different centers doing book distribution, and it is termed as Sankirtan fever, because there were challenges from the devotees in Los Angeles, New York, Denver, and Dallas. And at the center was Srila Prabhupada, assuring that unquestionably book distribution had the topmost priority of all his missionary activities. And then he said a very valuable instruction also. The books were not only for the public. The devotees must read them and know them. Or else, how could they preach? Then in that visit in Los Angeles, he started, he invited the devotees to take part in pronouncing and chanting responsively the daily Sanskrit verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, how it happens in the beginning of the Bhagavatam class. So then after Los Angeles, on the 1st of June, he left to Mexico City. I think I missed Mexico City. Yeah. Okay, so this is not Los Angeles. This is Mexico City. So he went to Mexico City, and it was the Sunday program had around 500 new visitors. And after the Sunday lecture was over, which is of course was translated into Spanish, and Prabhupada noted that the people in Mexico are pious, like the people in India. Then Chitsukananda Prabhu, he says the account that there were more than 500 people for the Sunday feast, and after Srila Prabhupada gave the lecture, he went back to his room. Everyone started singing a wild kirtan, and they were singing Jai Prabhupada continuously, and it was becoming very ecstatic. It was so loud that the temple walls would fall down. Then Srila Prabhupada asked, what is this? Kirtana? They are making so much noise. So then this Prabhu said that they are chanting your name. So then he went down to see what was the matter. Then they all said that they want to see Srila Prabhupada. So Chitsukananda Prabhu comes back to Prabhupada and said that they all want to see you. Then Srila Prabhupada said, well, let them come. So there were 2 doors, and they came in line through one door and exited via the other door. So one by one, when they came, everyone offered some praise in Spanish. Your divine grace, your holiness, please bless me, give me your benediction. And then Srila Prabhupada, everyone was extremely submissive, and Prabhupada asked Prabhu, what are they saying? And then he said that give me one blessing, one benediction. So he had his hand in the bead bag, and then he lifted up and said, Hare Krishna. They were all very happy. So immediately after that, he had to be taken to an outdoor program in another place, Kuarnavaka. So when they went there, it was again a big crowd, about thousands were waiting there. And exactly at that time, the first book in Spanish came, which is La Conciencia de Krishna es el sistema más elevado de yoga. Krishna consciousness, the topmost yoga system. And Srila Prabhupada was so pleased seeing the first book in Spanish, and he showed the crowd the book, and he said that you can all now take the book and read them. And then he also personally he signed in almost all the 50 copies of the book and gave it to distributed the books. So then after the lecture, there was after the plaza lecture, there was a hotel lecture that was arranged, and in between there was a prasadam arranged in a devotee's home. But Prabhupada said, let's go back to Mexico City. So practically from morning 8 to night 8, he hasn't had anything except water. When they offered to give him fruits also, he said no. Then he didn't wanted anything. Then after coming back to the temple, he had puri and sugar and milk. And Srila Prabhupada said, this is the way to be happy. Work all day for Krishna and then take some prasadam. Take a little prasadam at night. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We can see that how Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasado. So the spiritual master is pleased by seeing the spreading of Sankirtan movement and all the devotees taking Krishna consciousness, and that's what is so satisfying to him, to his soul. Then, so he returned to Los Angeles, and then before returning to Los Angeles, there was again a big thing with Bombay. So what happened was Mr. N, so Prabhupada is telegramming Giriraj Maharaj that he had to go and get the deed signed from Mr. N. So when Giriraj Maharaj went there, Mr. N is saying that after they signed the deed, there was a government law. Government has passed a law that they have to pay 5 lakh gains tax for the for the deed. So he's asking, I can't pay that, and ISKCON can pay that as a part of the payment that is due from ISKCON. So where will the devotees in Bombay go for 5 lakhs? And Mr. N is saying that you can secure, you can either, Mr. N suggested that Giriraj Maharaj can take a bank loan or secure funds from ISKCON temples in the US. And then he's promising that he will not in the meantime sell the land to anyone else. But who would give loan? Because there is nobody, no security and no guarantor. So Prabhupada wrote that he can get, guaranteeing from the prominent citizens who are helpful. But then Giriraj, I'm just going to read that, was becoming suspicious of Mr. N's character and his dealings. Mr. N was notorious for illegal business tactics. When previously Mr. N had signed an agreement with C Company for the very same land he was now selling to Prabhupada, the sales agreement had eventually been cancelled because C Company had not gotten permission from the municipality for subdividing the plots of land. And one of the conditions of Mr. N's sale of the land had been that C Company get government permission to use the land. According to some of the businessmen with whom Giriraj spoke, Mr. N, through his political connections, had influenced the government against the C Company. So this has happened just before, and the same plot of land is again given to ISKCON. So although he seemed very helpful, there was doubt about his behavior. So, but when Giriraj Maharaj wrote all this to Prabhupada, Prabhupada said that ISKCON's position was strong, and he asked him to approach more prominent citizens for help. And Srila Prabhupada is writing back, it's a unique temple in the world, and you all American, European boys have wonderful ability to manage. So I want that I always think of a Juhu place, and I want that it shall be the model for the world to emulate and respect as a perfect example of a Krishna conscious community. So then Prabhupada continues his travel to Portland. That was that he gave again a lecture to a large audience of about 1,000 people, and then he returned to the program was very successful, and many people from the nearby ISKCON centers and whoever has been practicing taking the books, they have all come to listen to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada went to London for 2 weeks, Los Angeles, and then to London for 2 weeks. In London, that's when George Harrison and Ravi Shankar met Prabhupada often. And when George Harrison offered to Srila Prabhupada that do I have to shave up and join in, Srila Prabhupada said that you just continue to be a singer, and please ask people to chant Hare Krishna and they will do it. So that was Prabhupada's instruction for George Harrison. Then he went to Paris, and in the Paris we can see that how he began the talk. It was a big talk in the university, so many hundreds of people, most of them student radicals, they had come. So Prabhupada started the talk telling that you French people have a history of being revolutionary because you're looking for a better way of life. So when these words were translated into French, there was big applause. And finally he said, therefore you should inquire into Krishna consciousness. It's a revolutionary movement for reviving our original God consciousness. So we can see how Srila Prabhupada first connects to them and then appeals to them from their platform that please take to Krishna consciousness. And July 26 was Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, the crowd was very wild and there were so many hippies. So he said, a devotee was addressing the crowd, and Srila Prabhupada told to the devotee, stop the lecture, these people are useless, just hold Kirtana. Then he said, he wrote the letter to one of the disciples. He said that, but so far, preaching to the general public, especially the hippie class, it is better not to preach very much philosophy. Just somehow or other, get them to chant Hare Krishna mantra. And if some of them are curious to learn something, they may purchase one of our books. Only if they chant with us, that will help them. So that was his instruction. Then we can see how, within a span of 3-4 days in a place he's going. So he goes to Edinburgh in July 29. And Kishora Prabhu, he's saying that how it's a stuffy, puffed up, tradition steeped place, and Prabhupada was very cordial, and he was talking about Edinburgh, how it's a rich place in tradition, and they have so many students, and it's very rich and opulent. They have so many big buildings. You have so much facility for enjoyment, and they were all agreeing yes, because they were very happy to hear the city in which they lived glorified. Then he looked at them straight and asked, why are your universities producing hippies? So they looked at one another and they had no answer. So then he says that happiness is not with the stones and buildings there. So this prominent aspect of where the happiness, one can get the happiness, is missing. Then in Glasgow, again he lectured before 1,000 people, and the balcony was overflowing. He was basically lecturing on the basics of Bhagavad Gita and how Arjuna decided to fight Arjuna decided to fight as a service to the Lord. Then again, there was a thing that happened there. A man, or when it came to question and answer time, one man came all the way down the aisle from the back of the hall and stood at the foot of the stage and looked up at Prabhupada. For several moments, he spoke on and on and on, talking very proudly. I am this, I am that. And then concluding, I am God. That was the conclusion of his little monologue. The whole crowd was hushed, and I thought, what's going to happen now? Prabhupada simply looked down and let the silence continue for a few moments more. Then Prabhupada spoke, so, you are God? You have nothing more to say? You are not God, you are dog. And immediately the crowd stood up and applauded and cheered. The man just looked at Prabhupada and a smile came on his face. With just those few words, he had been defeated. He simply walked all the way back again to the back of the hall and was finished. It was ecstatic because the crowd was participating in the whole thing. They all realized that God is not cheap after Srila Prabhupada's lecture. Then when they had Kirtan, the kids from outside who are all dirty, who are living on the streets, they also started coming in, and then they climbed up on the stage and they were getting close to Srila Prabhupada. And so the devotees tried to push the dirty children off the stage. But Srila Prabhupada said, don't do that. These children are all devotees, let them chant. So then on August 1, he returned to London, and there he wrote to Giriraj Maharaj saying that he can form a trustee with life members like Sumati Morarji, who can give advice on ISKCON's Bombay's project, and one of them each of them could contribute large sum of money for developing a particular area of the project. Prabhupada asked Mrs. Morarji to donate for the temple. He would request Mr. Kandelwal to donate for the library and Mr. N for the 2 other wings. But what was concerning was Mr. N had still not produced the deed. So, now Prabhupada is writing, on August 27, he's telegramming to Giriraj Maharaj, as conveyance deed been signed, if not finished immediately and wire details. So again, Giriraj went to Mr. N, seeing that what he's replying, and now Mr. N added another complication. What was the complication? That ISKCON is a public charitable trust, and so ISKCON has to get permission from the charity commissioner before acquiring the property. When Giriraj went to the charity commissioner's office, there he was told that it's now too late. He cannot get the permission because that permission should have been bought 6 months prior to signing the agreement for the land. Now it looked like it was a big knot that cannot be undone. So now we can see that how Mr. N is using his political influences and trying to move the things according to what he wanted. So this was the current situation in Bombay. Then Srila Prabhupada went to New Vrindavan on August 30 for Janmashtami celebrations and Vyasa Puja celebrations. There are so many devotees all around US had come there. Maybe if there is time, we can see the lectures later on, just a little bit of that. So that's when, we have heard many devotees share that after the 12:30, after the Aarti, midnight Aarti, Prabhupada continued to read Krishna book until 2 a.m. And finally he said, okay, all of you seem to be tired. You can go take prasadam, because everyone was dozing off. And that they had made a big pavilion and for Prabhupada to give lectures every day. So that was termed as Bhagavad Dharma discourses. And Srila Prabhupada told everyone that in every place they should do this. They should do like this. And that's how New Vrindavan is such a hilly place. And So, and from Prabhupada's place to walk down the pavilion, it was a long walk, and the devotees would carry Prabhupada in a palanquin. It was not very comfortable for him. The palanquin was uh, very preliminarily made, and there were some ropes that Prabhupada had to hold on to. And when Sureshwar Prabhu comes there, he sees that how Prabhupada is coming from one mount to the other in the palanquin, and it was like the whole scene was very picturesque. Many people holding the palanquin, and Janava Devi Dasi, she says that I ran up to be with Srila Prabhupada nearby. Then I realized that to be with Srila Prabhupada nearby, I need to increase my Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, even though I'm physically near with Prabhupada, it's a long distance. So that was her realization. And the next day was Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. Before that, before that, when Giriraj wrote that Mr. N is saying that they must have obtained the permission from the charity commissioner, without which he cannot pay the money. So what did Srila Prabhupada do? He had a copy of the purchase agreement with him, and he studied it carefully. Again, he concluded that his position was strong, since he was occupying the land according to the terms of the agreement. He had paid 2 lakhs as promised, but Mr. N had not turned over the deed. Now more money was being demanded, and Prabhupada had said Giriraja should pay this money and get the deed. As for the permission from the government charity commissioner, there was no mention of it in the agreement. Although Mr. N's tactics were apparently bewildering Giriraj, Prabhupada saw them as only empty bluffs. He telegrammed Giriraj, take bank mortgage, pay off N. He sent another telegram. Why do you say conveyance impossible? Everything clear in agreement of purchase. Conveyance to be executed immediately according to terms of agreement of purchase. So after this, there is a description of Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja celebration and how there were 1,000 guests were there, and New York Times and other newspapers also came, television, film cameras came. And what Prabhupada spoke in that is very significant. Prabhupada spoke explaining how, although an observer might misunderstand the devotee's worship of their spiritual master, no one should think that the spiritual master was presenting himself as God. Prabhupada compared the spiritual master to a tax collector. As a tax collector collects money only on behalf of the king, so the spiritual master receives honor, but on behalf of Lord Krishna. Everyone should serve and bow down to the Supreme Lord, and the spiritual master comes and collects obeisances and worship on behalf of God, who accepts any sincere worship of the spiritual master as an offering to himself. So that was the gist of his Vyasa Puja lecture. And then there's a very nice funny incident that when he went back to his room and he was taking the afternoon massage, 2 little kittens, they came and they were playing before Prabhupada, and slowly they came to touch the mat and also the feet of Srila Prabhupada. They came near Prabhupada, they were tumbling, they were rolling around, they're wrestling. Then they came right to Srila Prabhupada's feet. Prabhupada began tickling them under their chins. He was laughing, rubbing under their chins. Then he turned to me, sort of in a very jolly mood, and said, just see, even here there is love. Then Shrutakirti Prabhu said, his thing was, he was in charge of kitchen and he was cooking the whole event. So he couldn't get to be taking part in, practically he was in the kitchen the whole week and he didn't get to see Prabhupada at all. So always cooking till midnight, so he was feeling very bad. Then at that time, Kirtanananda Maharaj came and said that you're going to be the personal servant of Prabhupada, and tomorrow only you're going to leave with Prabhupada to Pittsburgh. So he said that that was amazing to hear. And then he said that I can, and then Kirtanananda Maharaj introduces him that he can cook very well, but he doesn't know how to do massage. And Prabhupada says, massage, it's easy, everybody can learn. Then Satsvarup Maharaj, he thinks that, all his questions had been answered by Prabhupada in the letter, but he sees everyone going and meeting Prabhupada on important business. So he also came to Prabhupada's door, and then he said to Prabhupada that he had no urgent questions to ask him, but he had become anxious to see him, so he had come. So he said for that Prabhupada replied that I should know better than to come to him out of such anxiety. He said that he had already answered everything in his books. Actually, this was very inspiring. On the one hand, he was telling me that as an older devotee, I should be assured that by studying his books, everything was there. Not that out of anxiety, I should feel a lacking and an impulse have to personally see my Guru. But now, since I was in his presence, Prabhupada asked me, what are you doing? So it was like, for him, it was like telling that, you're not doing anything much. So he replied to Prabhupada, according to Prabhupada's instructions, he's visiting many temples and guiding the devotees there. And then Srila Prabhupada told him that he was pleased with the program of Vishnu Jan Maharaj, who was traveling on a bus. So he said, I should do like that. Then I immediately replied, then your instruction that I should go to the different temples is not very important. I should take a bus. And Srila Prabhupada became annoyed and said, it is not that because one thing is more important, the other thing is less important. Everything is important. Not that just because I say this is important to travel in a bus, now you say traveling to the temples is not important. Krishna's head is important and Krishna's foot is important. Everything about him is important. So that was a very instructive meeting with Srila Prabhupada that he writes. And then on September 8, he went to Pittsburgh for one day, and after a program, he met with a Catholic bishop. And every time when he meets with an important person in the church, he asks, why do the Christians kill cows in slaughterhouses and thus break the commandment, thou shalt not kill? But he did not get a satisfying answer for that. Yeah, then he went to Dallas in September 9, and there he started the Gurukula system. So he had wrote to the couple of teachers from India that what they should do in Gurukula and how they should teach. So he's writing, the old system of Gurukula should be revived as a perfect example of a system designed to produce great men, sober and responsible leaders who know what is the real welfare of the citizens. Now you've got the responsibility to inject this idea in your country. Please do it with a cool head, and very soon we shall see the practical benefit for your countrymen. So he went and he visited there were about 50 kids who were enrolled, and that's when we see the famous picture of Prabhupada holding the hand of Dwarkadisha, the student, and making him write the first Sanskrit alphabet. And he also had he went to a classroom and he had a 2 blackboard pointer. He had 2 in his hand, and he said that one is for hitting the students' heads and another is for hitting their students' hands. And it was very funny, and people were like, the kids and the teacher was delighted to see Prabhupada in a playful mood. So he asked, who wants to get hit? And everyone lined up, holding their hands for a merciful slap from Srila Prabhupada. Then again, there's a telegram from Bombay. And somebody who came from Bombay to the west, he told to Srila Prabhupada that Giriraj was thinking of resigning as a president of the center. Depressed by his ineffectiveness in dealing with Mr. N, the lawyers and the government, and harassed by bickering and uncooperative devotees, he was considering himself unworthy to keep the charge. But he was thinking like that's what the devotee who came told to Prabhupada. But then Prabhupada telegrammed, settle land immediately at best price possible. Promise to pay it off. If he won't, we can pay. Suggest 15,000. Don't change presidency until I come. This was Prabhupada's telegram. Then there's a beautiful installation of Radha Kalachandji from Dallas. So this large deities of Radha Krishna arrived in Dallas by trailer from New York. And they are describing the Krishna deity was magnificent. He was tall, bigger than most ISKCON deities, and his limbs and head were strikingly large. According to one story, the deity was several hundred years old and therefore carved according to an ancient tradition. Even though the devotees in Dallas were unprepared to install Radhakrishna deities, Prabhupada told them to get ready in 2 days for the installation, which he would personally perform. However, what happened was Janava Devi Dasi unauthorizedly removed the original paint from the deities and began to repaint them. When Prabhupada heard this, he was furious. He called the Dallas president Satsvarup Das Goswami to his room and demanded an explanation. Satsvarupa said that he was a fool, but that Janava has also acted without his permission. Prabhupada then called for Janava and yelled at her furiously. She began to cry. Why have you done this? Srila Prabhupada demanded. Nonsense, was her choked reply. Nonsense, Srila Prabhupada affirmed. Suicidal nonsense. You are a nonsense and you will always remain a nonsense. So what are you going to do about this? Well, Srila Prabhupada, Janava replied weakly. I called up Bharat Raja in Los Angeles and he said if I use a certain kind of paint. Bharat Raj? Prabhupada yelled. Who is this Bharat Raj? I am your spiritual master and I am sitting before you. Why do you not ask me? Disgusted, he then turned to the others in the room. So, what is to be done about this? One of the ladies said that with a quick drying paint, they could repaint the deities just as before, in time for the installation. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, do it immediately. So Janava stayed up all night, carefully repainting the deities as before. Early the next morning, which was to be the morning of the deity deity installation, Krishna looked very beautiful, although his body was tacky in spots from the fresh paint. So during that morning walk, Prabhupada again asked Satsvarup Maharaj whether the deity was paint would be dry, whether everything was ready for installation. And Satsvarup Maharaj replies that he was uncertain whether Krishna's paint would be dry enough. Hearing that, Prabhupada suddenly stopped. If the deities weren't ready, he said, there was no use in his staying any longer in Dallas. Turning to his secretary, he told him to change their flight reservations as soon as possible. Satsvarupa begged forgiveness and said that maybe everything could still be done on schedule. Prabhupada's angry mood changed and he continued walking, talking about other matters. Later in the room, then he asked, he was talking alone to Satsvarup Maharaj and he's telling about the mentality of the materialistic men on which the early morning lectures, lecture of Bhagavatam was. So he's saying that they think that just by having a big family and being absorbed in mundane activities, they do not have to concern themselves with death or with the next life. As Prabhupada spoke, he shook his head in disbelief, considering the incredulous position of the materialist. So this is the Vaishnava compassion, thinking for others. I mean, where they are going to go. This is very much a warning, for all of us also, that if we think that whatever we are doing is enough and not prepare for the incoming death and the next life, we are lost. So wherever he went, his consciousness was always on Krishna. Anything he did, it was Krishna. So he was, and then again he asked, is the deities ready for installation? Then he went to inspect where Janava was examining the repaint deity. Calmly he stood before Radha and Krishna singing to himself. Yes, he said, now it's all right. So Prabhupada, reciting the prayers from Brahma Samhita, installed the deities and offered the first arati to the deities who had been hastily dressed and placed on an almost bare altar. Prabhupada seemed pleased, however, and later went up to his room and wrote on a piece of paper, Radha Kala Chanji, the deity of Dallas, September 12, 1972, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Kala Chanji, he meant black moon. So, yeah, then another anxiety over Bombay is that Prabhupada wrote 2 letters to Mr. D, who was a lawyer, and there was no reply from that. But then when somebody told that Mr. D was considering resigning, and then 2 days later, the resignation letter of Mr. D also came. Now, I mean, we can understand that how the plot of Mr. N is working, because from the beginning, Mr. N and Mr. D were pairing together, and who was ISKCON's lawyer, basically. So finally he resigned. And here it is said, a couple of days after receiving the shocking news, Prabhupada received a formal letter from the office of Mr. D informing him of the same. Of all the recent news from Bombay, this was the most disturbing. Prabhupada began to see how Mr. N had been devising a devious plot from the beginning. It was not just a matter of slowness or bureaucratic delay. Mr. D had been in league with Mr. N. They were cheaters. So now it was going to be a real fight. ISKCON would have to go to court and file criminal charges against Mr. N. There was no avoiding the fight, but Prabhupada still felt his position was legally very strong. So then he went to Berkeley in October 6th. There he installed Radha Krishna deities in the Berkeley temple. And then also he wrote to Tamal Krishna Maharaj asking he and Brahmananda Maharaj to go and help in Bombay. And he's writing that the Bombay dealing has been muddled by the tactics of Mr. N and Mr. D. Giriraja is in trouble. He's a child in these worldly dealings, so immediately go to help him. But you must be careful to pay the money in the court and not in the hand of Mr. N or his solicitor. Settle up the things properly, otherwise let us go to the court for specific action, either civic or criminal, against the tactics of Mr. N. Then during his return trip to India, he visited Hawaii, and for the first time he visited Manila also. There they had arranged preaching programs for him. And yeah, finally he writes down his points. If you remember, even in the League of Devotees, he did the same. I mean, write down his points from where his legal position is. And finally, even before leaving League of Devotees, we saw how Prabhupada said that there is no way that they can make me go. But I didn't want to put the middleman in trouble, so I left. But here he's writing 8 points. We have point number 1. We have fulfilled all the conditions as purchaser. 2. Mr. N had purposefully delayed with a motive to cheat us as he had done with some others in this connection. 3. But this time he cannot cheat us because we are in possession of the land and our deity Radha Krishna is installed there. 4. Therefore, we must immediately go to the court for enforcing him to execute the conveyance immediately. 5. Even if the court case goes on for a long time, still our business there cannot be stopped. 6. Without going to the court, we cannot make any compromise with him. 7. But I think we can arrange the full amount of 14 lakhs to get out this rascal out of the scene. 8. But we cannot do it without going to the court. Otherwise, we shall become a party for breaking the purchase agreement. Therefore, we have to go to the court before making any compromise. So thus ends this chapter. Chapter 40, absorbed in Bombay and traveling around the world. It's such a, intense chapter with so many realizations and beautiful qualities and glories of Srila Prabhupada. I'm sorry I couldn't go much in detail with everything because the chapter itself was long and we had to cover the points to finish this. Srila Prabhupada, if there is time, we can see some address or just a few minutes from this address in New Vrindavan. Yes, Puja address.
Sure, Mataji.
I think we have to stop live, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.